Here we go. Jimmy D and the Wolf. Oh, my striker fell. I'll have to
I love that bell, man.
fix it. There.
Very distinctive tone to it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's important.
It is important to inject our personality into our podcast. Number 20, Jimmy.
Nice, man. Hard to believe we're rolling right along with this whole thing.
Yeah.
We just enjoy it. You know, it's funny. With you and I feel like we could just film our normal routine and we could release like 16 podcasts a day if we just, if we had somebody following us around just filming everything that we talk about and everything that we do.
One day.
Like reality television.
One day.
Man.
We haven't even planned anything to talk about today. What?
You know, what I'd like to talk about is the effects of COVID-19 on live music.
Oh, right. You had mentioned
musicians,
that. Yes.
On live music, on concerts, on venues, on clubs that have music, on restaurants that have music, on bars that have music. It seems like, I don't know that anybody's taken more of a black eye through this thing than musicians and venue owners that support live music. I don't know that this has been harder on any group of people than it has on those people that count on live music for the primary source of their income. I mean, the big concerts, they're canceling them into next year in some circles. Hardly anybody has been able to play. I know Wisconsin's opening back up, and of course we don't know what's going to happen there as of now. Nobody's sure. So fortunately musicians are getting back to it now, but man, there's just the bulk of the people in the live music world were stopped dead in their tracks with nothing at all. And I've read that there's going to be thousands of music venues potentially have to close their doors. There are many restaurants, you know, in Indiana, they closed, I think, 23 Steak and Shakes forever. Not that that has anything to do with live music, but it's business. Shapiro's, which is a landmark in my home state of Indiana, is struggling. They're saying that they're a few weeks away from closing the doors. And everything is in flux right now. You know, it's interesting because if you're a musician and you're making your living doing that, and you haven't already made your bones, you know, you haven't already made millions or whatever, you're scared to death right now. Anybody in their right mind that does that for a living is terrified. And everybody that I've talked to in that world, it's like primal fear, man, because they're saying, well, even if things get back, what if there's a second wave of COVID? Or are people even going to come out? And the venue owners are hurting so bad, they're afraid to book acts right now because they don't know what that's going to look like. It's just maybe the hardest time, well, not maybe, definitely the hardest time for musicians that I've seen in my lifetime, easily. And certainly the hardest time for venue owners. And while all these things are going on, the face of live performance itself is changing with all the streaming things. You know, there's so many artists streaming now and doing Facebook Lives or Instagram Lives or YouTube Lives and setting up PayPal accounts and trying to make their living that way. So there is a positive aspect to this whole thing, that there are folks getting some notoriety from their bedrooms that probably wouldn't have before. But there's just never been this much flux. There's never been this many moving parts changing at once with so many questions for artists. And, you know, there's statistics that show that being an independent artist is not good for your mental well-being. It's really not. And I would wonder what those stats are now, because I'm sure it's even worse. With these people scared how they're going to keep the lights on, and not just that, but now you have venues that you were counting on before that might not reopen, and if they do reopen, they're afraid to book because they don't know that people are going to come back out. It's a terrifying time, man, you know, and the effects, I believe, are going to be far-reaching. Because when you pull the rug out from under somebody who's living week to week like that, what you're going to see is a lot of artists that have done it that just get fed up. So I can't do this anymore. Too much. There's going to be a lot of people throwing the towel. And I think there will be maybe just as many people that say, hey, I can do this because I've been streaming on Facebook and some of these Facebook groups, and it turns out people really like my stuff.
Wow, that's interesting take, Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see an influx of new talent. I predict, maybe I'm wrong, but my prediction is that we're going to see a big influx of new talent in the live game, but you're going to see some of the folks that have been doing it for a while just leave the game because they're going to have to. You know, it's nearing that point for many of the folks I know that have been doing it 20, 30 years. They're 3 months out without a gig, 3 months out. You know, they're dead in the water. Many of them can't get unemployment. There's nothing coming in. They're getting, you know, buried right now. And I know guys that have been doing it for 20, 30, 40 years. They're saying, well, I'm folding up shop. I'm going to go get a factory gig, or I'm going to go work at Walmart, or whatever it is. So it's going to be interesting, and I think the effects are going to be far-reaching. I think we'll see it for years to come in the music game, and nobody knows what it's going to look like because we don't, like as it stands now. We were talking yesterday, Wisconsin just opened back up. Hopefully that's a good thing, and there's not a single new case of COVID-19 in this whole state of Wisconsin, and it's back to business as usual, and this thing, we all land on our feet, and the day is saved. But what if?
Well, first of all, based on my understanding and articles that I've read, I'm an avid reader of Billboard magazine and business MBW, Music Business World, I think it is. I love, because being an entrepreneur, a business person, I love reading about the business of music. And unless you're the 1%, you know, like a Post Malone or a Maroon 5 or Lady Gaga or whatever, you know, household names, 80 to 90% of your revenue comes from live. Absolutely. From touring and playing gigs, getting paid for playing live. And then you sell merch. You know, if you got good merch and it's an add-on, et cetera, maybe sell some CDs. If people are still buying CDs, that's a whole nother discussion. We've talked a bit about that. People are still selling CDs at shows, but I wonder where they're going to play them. Not to get on that rabbit trail, but 100%, I agree with you. These people are suffering, and live only goes so far, right? Sure. You've been going live almost every day except for some interruptions.
Went 50 days in a row.
And how did it equate to your income normal?
It's been all over the place.
The average over the 50 days or the 2 months, just without giving numbers, what percent of your normal revenue in those exact months, because it's seasonal, right? So March and April, what will you normally have earned from lives? And what percent of that, either less than 100 or more than 100, did you make from lives?
It started off really, really strong. It actually started off surprisingly as being more for a couple of weeks, and then it tapered way off. I'd say for the bulk of the time, those 50 days, 40%.
Ooh! 40% of your norm.
40%. And that's doing it every single day and doing something completely different every single day. I didn't do the same set 50 days in a row. I did something different every day. And, you know, no sour grapes there. A lot of people are hurting. I wasn't expecting, you know, a lot of people to pay for it. And my mindset behind it was, everybody's going crazy just like me. Everybody's stuck in a house. The least I can do is try to play a few songs for them a day. And it was a great thing, really, because, you know, as an artist, you kind of challenge yourself. And if you do it every day, you got a gun to your own head and say, I got to do something different every day. You end up in some places that you wouldn't have normally ended up in. So it's been fun, and it's been a learning tool, and it's interesting. What's been great about it is seeing some of these groups, some of these Facebook groups, just blow up. You know, there was one group I was a member of that got like 1 million likes. And so all of a sudden you're seeing people from all over the country, and some of them are just unbelievably good, dude. Unbelievably good. A lot of it, you know, it's like anything, you have to weed through it. A lot of it's not so great. But it's a platform for those people, and I read that Facebook is moving towards a Facebook Live platform that automatically monetizes it to where you can charge for tickets to your Facebook Live. So if Facebook's getting on board with that thing, I mean, it's 6 in one, half dozen in the other. There's positive attributes to it. There's negative attributes to it. But the trouble is that the people whose strongest suit was their live game, the people that put in all the work all the time, the road warriors that just banging it up. I know guys that can tear the roof off of a live venue with 300 people that don't have the technological capacity to even get on Facebook, let alone go live on Facebook. And even if they manage to pull all that off, which would be a major feat for them, there's no way they could link up a PayPal link or a Venmo link or something like that. And, you know, it's understandable, as some of the older cats that I look up to that have been doing music for 40 years, that their live game's super strong. You say, well, the only way you can make money now is by streaming. They don't know how to do that. It's just unfortunate, man. You know, this whole thing. And the craziest thing about it is so many states, and the steps back to opening things up. It's like now in the state of Indiana, you can hire a DJ, but you can't have live musicians. What's that about? And it's that way in many states. You can have a DJ, but not a live musician. At least somebody came out and said it finally. DJs aren't live musicians. Thanks for that.
To your governor, yes.
Yeah,
we have voiced our opinion.
Come out and said it, man. Thank you.
We have voiced our opinion of DJs, although they out-earn musicians, the top ones. I mean, they get paid millions of dollars, which neither of us can understand. Because our perception of it, you're just pushing buttons. Anyway,
exactly.
we get in trouble by. But, yeah, and to me, and I've said this to you, I mean, I'm tired of. We went to our first restaurant, first time both of us have been to a restaurant, Sunday of this week.
Yeah.
We're recording this on a Wednesday, so 3 days ago. First time that either of us had been in a restaurant in 2 months, for sure.
2 months, absolutely.
And boy, did it feel good.
Yes, it did.
It felt so good to now, you know, I don't cook that much. I live by myself. I did cook breakfast for you, Jimmy.
You did, man. It was good, too.
But
it was good.
You noticed it was a one-time event, right?
It was once, man, but it was good. I appreciated it. It was like eggs with blue cheese crumbles in it or something.
Yeah. Eggs and sauteed onions. Anyway, back to the topic, I eat out a lot, and because I do it for two reasons: because I don't like to prepare, and also the social interaction.
Sure.
In most places I go, they know me, and they know what I order, and we're probably not friends because we're situational friends. Mm-hmm. It's like you never worked in an office, but when you work in an office, I don't know if you were a fan of the series The Office.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's one of my wife's favorites.
I mean, it's the exaggeration of everything, but a lot of those tendencies are real. I mean, of course, they make everything exaggerated for jokes, but clueless bosses. I mean, people that are and your work friends. They're your friends, but they're your office friends.
Sure.
And you're friends with them while you're there. You tell jokes. You might even have lunch with them. Go off-site for lunch, but you rarely hang out in the evening or on the weekends. It depends. Yeah. But they're office friends. So these people are my restaurant friends. I don't see them outside of that anyway. Another rabbit trail, but I am glad to be able to go to a restaurant. And we've been to a restaurant, I think, almost every day since. Once I didn't even realize you could. I guess I didn't realize you could in Nashville. I assumed they were all closed.
Yeah.
And we were just anyhow.
Social distance.
So I'm glad that restaurants are reopening, and I want Wisconsin to succeed in that regard. And because they seem to be a bellwether, that they've opened up full tilt based on what I've read, and I've even seen posts on Facebook. But on the other hand, there are people saying, what if the COVID-19 resurges? And people who have studied the 1918 pandemic, which was the Spanish flu, I believe, and different cities had different ways of handling it. St. Louis, I think, was one, and Denver, some examples. And I think Denver was the one where they opened up too soon and they had to shut back down. And then they opened up, they had to shut back down again. And I think St. Louis was one that handled it really well. And when they did open up, they didn't have to shut down again. So, and I don't want to get COVID-19. I've heard that it's incredibly painful. And if you get it and you get put on a ventilator, 85% of people you get put on a ventilator, you're not coming off it. Well, you're coming off of it when they disconnect your dead body from it, but you're not coming off of it and recovering. 80, the odds are against you. So, there was a friend from South Dakota, a neighbor who early 50s, by all accounts, I think healthy, and his wife didn't feel well, and you better take me to the doctor or to the hospital, went to the emergency room, and she was dead within 15 hours.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know until posthumously they tested her and she had COVID-19. I mean, those are extreme cases, but, that's scary stuff.
Oh, yeah, man, it happens, I mean, there's a lot of people saying, oh, it's a farce. It's not real. Obviously it's real. It's
obviously
not a worldwide
it's real.
Conspiracy.
Yeah, no, right. It's obviously real, but how much do we have to be afraid of it spreading? And this Wisconsin, I'm glad it's not Tennessee, although Tennessee is opening up on the curve. Tennessee's opening up faster than some of the other states.
Sure, so is Indiana. And Alabama is the same thing. They're opening up as well.
But Wisconsin's ground zero from what I
agree.
understand.
Milwaukee is the tip of the spear on this whole thing. It has to be. We have to look at Milwaukee and say, what's going on there?
And also, anyone who prognosticates about our 2020 election, and it's a tough to call election, because I would say you've got fervent supporters of President Trump that no matter what he does, they support him. And you've got fervent non-supporters, never Trumpers. Sure. I don't think, Biden's going to presumptive. They're not Biden fans. They're they're negative Trumpers, right?
Sure. It's the same way with both sides. You have people that are going to vote on one side no matter what, and other people are going to vote on the other side no matter what. It's like ways of thinking. It's conditioned thought.
So, I am thinking that And Wisconsin is ground zero. People who have studied the election, we have Electoral College if you're from another country, and maybe you've probably, I know other countries do get news articles about our system and what our Electoral College is. Some of you probably know it better than the average American because you're well informed and you get it given to you or explained to you. So it's not the popular vote, but it's state by state. And there's 5 states that have been identified as battleground states, and ground zero is Wisconsin.
Yes.
And President Trump carried Wisconsin in 2016, which is the first time it had not gone red, had not gone blue in a long time.
Yes.
And these articles that I've read said he has to take Wisconsin to win in 2020. It's ground zero.
It is ground zero on many
And
levels.
if this reopening of Wisconsin goes well,
bodes well for him.
it bodes well for him.
Absolutely.
He'll be reelected. I'm going to predict he's going to be reelected. It depends on what happens in Wisconsin, because the narrative by the right is that it's a different levels of, it's hyped, it's overhyped, all the way to it's a farce and it's not true. There are those who say that COVID-19 isn't real.
Sure.
All the way, and then it is real, but it's a lot less of a problem than it's being made up to be, and we shouldn't be limiting because we're gonna 80,000 deaths, 90,000 deaths. We have more than that die from other things. So
Yes.
that thinking, and that we should be allowed to open up and don't ruin our economy, blah blah blah, and so that's kind of the right side of thinking. And I think there's a bunch of people in the middle that are still undecided on which way they're going to vote. The extreme lefts and the extreme rights, they're going to vote the way they're going to vote.
A lot of people are watching to see what happens.
Yeah, and
because there's a lot of people that have this general feeling of something smells funny. Is it BS? Is it not BS? Has the whole thing been overblown? Is it an ousting thing? And they want to see where this thing lands. I agree with your assessment.
Yeah.
There are a great many people that are looking at this thing through a magnifying glass.
Absolutely.
Saying, what happens now? So this city opened up, and now what? Does Milwaukee get bushwhacked because everybody's out? If the COVID statistics just explode in Milwaukee, then
it's not going to bode well for President Trump
bode
re-election.
well for our president. And it's but it's an interesting thing, man, because like my statement about conditioned thought, there are people on the right who are conditioned to think a certain way. There are people on the left who are conditioned to think a certain way. Like it or not, I'm not attacking those people. It's just what it is. It seems like the general consensus of a lot of people that I know personally, and I see a lot of social media, the bulk of the left says, this is a very serious thing. We need to lock it down as long as possible. We got to be careful. Wear your face mask. The bulk of the right say, it's garbage. It's a plan.
I'm not wearing a face mask.
I'm not wearing a face mask. And I'm not trying to pigeonhole anybody. I'm just saying, as a consensus, I think it's a fair assessment.
I think it is.
It's a fair assessment. There's two absolute different. That being said, there are more people, like you said, here in the middle going, what is this really?
Yeah. Those are people going to decide the 2020
Looking
election.
at it subjectively, saying we need more data to know. Because if this thing opens up in a way that, and I pray it does, Milwaukee, regardless of what the outcome of the election is, I pray that Milwaukee, there's not another single case in Wisconsin.
We don't want anyone to die.
If that happens,
or to be
you're going to have a general sense from people on both sides. You're going to have a general sense of what was this all about, really? This was a bigger picture to oust Trump. If Milwaukee opens up like it is now, and they've got live music, bars are packed, you saw the video of places, it's back in business. And those numbers don't change.
Trump will be reelected.
Not just reelected. The general consensus will be that this whole thing was designed for what?
Yeah. It'd be hard to refute those thought patterns.
That's what a lot of people are going to think.
But conversely, if they have an explosion,
Absolutely.
and all of the things that have been said by President Trump, and that it's not that. I mean, he's on video numerous times saying it's not that big of a deal. We have 15 cases; it'll be 0 soon. All of these things that he has actually said, you can't refute that he said them.
Sure.
He will not be reelected. This is my prediction today. I'm
with you, man. I think what's going on there is huge.
Now, what if it's in the middle? What if they have a little bit increase? It's got to be an epidemic for.
It can't be in the middle. If
it's in the middle, then it goes towards Trump's side.
Yes, exactly. Because there's been so much focus and so much
in
energy
favor
of the whole COVID thing. To me, it's like, I know it's serious, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but I'm so tired. I like everything that I get on my phone. There's a COVID update or a COVID thing. It was in my email. It was on Facebook. It's everywhere. You've been inundated with this COVID thing. So I think that there's going to be a general consensus that if those statistics stay the same in Milwaukee,
or go up a little bit, I think the tolerance for going up a bit,
people are getting
10%, 15%.
I think the general consensus will still be, well, what was this about, really?
Yeah. They have to spike to the point where Wisconsin is forced to close back down.
Exactly. If this thing
whatever that number is, I don't know what that number is.
If this thing doesn't blow up there and the numbers go crazy, it bodes well for our president. Right
for
now.
re-election, yeah.
Big time.
I think it's just interesting. Has there ever been an election where the fate of the re-election is determined by a virus?
Right, exactly right. And there's another thing too there's another underlying thing that nobody's really looking at right now is, what if this happens and the general mindset is, well, that was overblown. And you're somebody that's been far left your whole life, except for your business went belly up during the course of the lockdown because you had a mom and pop store that couldn't pay the bills for 2 or 3 months. Then you have...
Yeah, there's going to be people
this whole
running left from the right and running right from the left.
It's interesting, man, and history is.
I mean, if you're right, sorry to interrupt you. Hold that thought.
History's being made, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a conservative person and you had a relative who fought this and died, and I mean, there are stories of some people who, because of the dialogue they got from Sean Hannity and whatever, and telling them that it's not that serious, that they didn't take it seriously and they died. I mean, what's that going to do to? There are people who are saying that I used to be conservative and now I'm questioning that. So it goes both ways.
Absolutely,
it could go both ways. So yeah, history's being made. 2020. Woo! Most eventful year in my life.
It's been crazy, man, and we're to the point now that I think, as a society, we're just numb. We're just numb, and everybody's just kind of sitting and watching to see what's going to happen. But in another 20, 30 years, this is going to be pivotal.
Well, I hope.
They will write about it.
I mean, I hope 2020. I hope 2021 isn't 2020 on steroids, and 2022 is 2021 on steroids. I mean, come on, give us a break, God. Give us a break.
It's the 20, man. It's every 100 years there's a pandemic. It's the 20. We just need to change our numbering system and skip the 20s. Every 100 years there's some kind of pandemic that wipes out a bunch of people, and it's like, I don't know. God doesn't like 20s, maybe. I don't know what it is. It's interesting, though. I mean, there's so much in flux right now, and I think that the flip side of it is, to my point from earlier about artists and how artists are suffering, and I worry about their mental well-being, is that's another side of this that people aren't really discussing enough, in my opinion, is how is this affecting people's mental well-being? Isolation, not being around other individuals. We have to have that. That's important as human beings. What are the suicide rates doing right now? What are they going to do in the future? How are people being affected as a whole, psychologically?
Well, we talked about in some of our previous podcasts that it's going to, I mean, we have, and we have a income inequality in this country that we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
And it goes against the mantra, the American dream, Horatio Alger, you could pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, the facts bear out, the studies that have been done, in mobility from the income or the income class, if you divide annual income in a family into 5 groups, and they just pick 5. So the bottom 20%, the next 20%, and so on and so on. And the mobility of people to migrate from the grouping of that 20%, of that 1/5, to another group, whether it's up, well, usually up, from the one where they were born in, we have some of the lowest mobility of any country, of any developed country in the world. Now, we think of ourselves as being, American dream, you can do it.
Yeah, you can come from nothing
but
and get there.
Facts don't bear that out.
Right.
And it's because we're in a society of, it's not income, it's access to capital. It's access to assets. It's what's your net worth. And that is something that's built up over generations. And it's really hard to move. I mean, as a farm, okay, I come from a farm community. And I was just watching a documentary the other day about a guy in the beef, because they're talking about the beef industry, because now the packing plants are closed, and what are they going to do with all their fat cattle or their fat hogs? Hogs have a really much shorter time span for them to get to market. Cattle take about 1.5 years from the time they're born until they're fat and ready to be killed, maybe 2 years depending. But hogs, I think it's like 3 months. It's months. It's 3 to 6 months. We never had hogs. And so these people are struggling because they have no place to send their finished product, and it's not. It's you can't just I'll just hang on to them and not feed them so they don't grow. I mean, you can't. You have to kill them and put them into a. Anyway, so the guy was talking about agriculture, and he said you can't. You either have to be born rich, or you have to be born into it. And most people are born into it. Their dad did it because it's an asset. You need to have all the equipment. And in grain farming, same thing. You can't just start up and say, hey, I want to be a farmer. Capital costs a combine costs $350,000. A tractor costs 6 figures. I mean, you can't even get access to the land because even if you want to rent it, all the other farmers have it locked up. They have a long-term relationship. Maybe their families are. How about in your area? You're a farm community.
Oh yeah. It's generation after generation after generation. You're not going to start farming.
Exactly.
And so a guy like me isn't just going to say, you know what, I'm going to be a farmer.
Absolutely.
With what?
Can't happen.
Yeah,
Can't
you're either
happen.
born into it or you're not.
So I don't know that that's any different than any. I mean, I'm not saying farming is different than other areas, but that type of a limitation permeates our society.
Sure.
That it's about the access to capital. That if if you're in the bottom 20%, you don't have access to that capital that the members of the top 20% or even the second 20% may have. And so the mobility between quintuplets? No, what would it be? Between the one of 5 groups, 20% group.
Quintile?
Quintile! Woo!
All it reading's paying.
Cake for you. Cake
you
for
got
you.
me
You
reading
want a
now,
cake.
Tim. It's starting to pay off.
Exactly, quintile. Woo! Jimmy gets a star.
I'm stepping out of the tobacco patch. Maybe I'll have my own farm one day. Oh, that's good. You're right, though, man. And, it does apply to everything. It's not just a farm community. And we've talked about that a lot. Of, people's ability to further their education. And it all plays in,
So, anyway, I think this long rabbit trail that I started on, that's only getting worse.
Sure.
And that's showing the inequality in this country. If you're a white-collar worker, like my neighbor. I don't know exactly what he does, but he's in the financial industry. He sells annuities, I believe, and he's working from home and not affecting his income. He still has a job. He has a computer. He works from home, and still doing the same thing, getting paid. And in fact, there's now saying that so many companies have learned to adapt to have people work remotely that if you own an office, if you're in the business of owning office buildings, you may have a problem after this thing is over because companies realize, wait a minute.
Yeah.
We don't need all this office space.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
So that's I guess the haves, if you will. If you want to use the haves and have-nots.
That's what it all is.
But if you're a blue-collar guy and you're like your brother works at the Ford plant, now he has gotten unemployment. So unemployment has propped you up, and that's because of special programs, which is good that they did. And other people that I know have gotten unemployment. Unemployment benefits have been really good. I've heard from multiple people that they're making more from unemployment than they were with their regular job.
A lot of folks are right now.
But if that, over a period of time, that's going to have to get, because don't unemployment benefits go for a certain amount of months or weeks or whatever it is, 20 weeks and it goes out, or 20, what is it? And now I'm sure they're going to extend that because we're in extenuating circumstances, but they are dependent on the government for that. Whereas the white collar worker, like my neighbor and many, many others like him, business as usual, working for the company, just working from home, going stir crazy, being with the kids and the wife, but small problems, right?
Right.
Now, there are exceptions. You heard the truck earlier. We live in a construction zone. They're building houses.
And they start at 1:15 a.m. every day, and they work until dark.
It's not that bad. They quit at 4:30. They quit at 4:30.
But they start at 1:15 a.m.
There's I can hear a vehicle go by. They're building an entire development over here. Oh, there goes a forklift.
They're getting after it, no doubt.
Getting after it, and those guys are working. But I guess social distancing, when you're in a cab of a payloader, you're social distancing, there's nobody else there. So I guess that's okay. That's, you can go to work. But if you're working in a plant, or certainly, you were saying service people in a restaurant, hard to get unemployment because
the
your
people
tips.
that were hanging on by a thread, man.
Yeah.
The people that are affected the most from this whole thing are the ones that were busting their butt and were already hanging on by a thread.
Right. And that's just going to, the divide is going to get bigger.
The ripple effect of that is going to be long-standing.
So, yeah.
Well, we hope for the best, man. And who knows? Hopefully, by the time our next podcast comes out, we're all back to business. And, my prayer is that Milwaukee's slamming by then and there's not another single case, or they find a vaccine for this thing or something. But
a vaccine would be a game changer.
Yeah.
A vaccine that is easily to produce. I haven't followed it closely, but if you rely on China supply, which I guess we have allowed ourselves to rely on them, and our relationship with them is not that great. There's been a lot of accusations thrown across the Pacific Ocean between the two countries. And so if we can get a vaccine developed, and maybe I haven't read the latest, and we can source it in adequate supply so that everybody can be vaccinated, that's a huge game changer. Huge.
It'll happen.
Yeah. It will happen eventually. Yeah. But how soon? Will it be next year? I thought the stuff I read, it could be a year and a half before we get a vaccine. Then they do all the testing and everything on it. We're into summer of 2021 with that scenario. I'm not predicting that or saying that's going to be the case. I am saying, though, that as Wisconsin, if by, what is today? This is the 20th of May. June. So if by Labor Day, Wisconsin is going full blast with no repercussions and watch us go, this thing's going to be over.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to say, wait a minute.
Exactly right.
Why are we shut down?
Yeah. And we're tired of being cooped up.
Yeah. And maybe Labor Day is way too far out. Maybe, 4th of July. You said they're opening up
In Indiana, 4th of July is the first date that we can have
real
live
musicians,
real musicians
can start
legit
playing,
bars
legit.
are open. Yeah.
Not these fake button pusher guys.
Not the DJs, who, by the way, it's official now, are not musicians.
Woo!
It's officially been said. It's in writing. So I didn't say it. The governor of Indiana said it. It's in writing. Which might be the only blessing to this whole freaking thing.
Hey,
dude.
It's almost worth it to go through it just to have that declared in
there's
writing.
Always that little ray of
Just
sunshine.
kidding,
And
just
my
kidding.
little ray of
Absolutely not.
sunshine is that
all the 90,000 deaths are now. That's. I don't even want to make light of that. That's. But. Well, I think. How many minutes have we been going there?
We're
buddy?
about 40 in, man.
All right.
I think we're good.
Okay, shall we ring the bell?
Yep.
Jimmy D and the Wolf.
Yes, sir.
See you next time.
Good talk.